Hello again, I'm Sam B. Hansen. Today I'm going to be playing the first movement of Elgar's Organ Sonata in G, Opus 28. Sir Edward Elgar was one of England's greatest composers who lived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He rose to fame with the release of his Enigma Variations of 1899, with its particularly famous ninth variation called Nimrod. Which a lot of people have has very English connections for them listening to that piece, and also his first Pomp and Circumstance march has become now for many years a regular feature of the last night of the proms each September in the Royal Albert Hall. One thing he didn't particularly begin to tackle, although he'd been thinking about it for some time, until his early 50s, was that challenge of writing a symphony. He didn't start to do that until his 50s. However, this piece, the Organ Sonata from 1895, which is much earlier than that, has often been called, or has been called in the past, his Symphony No. 0, if you like, particularly in reference to Gordon Jacobs' orchestration of the piece, which he made in the 1940s, shortly after Elgar had died. I've been listening on Spotify to the recording of the orchestration by the BBC National Orchestra of Wales, conducted by Richard Hickox. That was recorded in 2007 and also features a performance of Elgar's Symphony No. 1. And they take this first movement quite a bit faster than what I play, and that probably suits the orchestra in their acoustic better than what you're about to hear on what I'm emulating here, quite a sizable instrument, a sizable organ in a reasonably generous acoustic, where it perhaps makes sense to play a bit slower. You might like to go and compare the two. Now, the keen-eyed amongst you, perhaps by now, will have noticed that I'm not sat at an organ console at all. This is because of the second lockdown restrictions that are currently in place this month. I've decided it's best to stay here today. So I've got the Nord. I don't have a pedal board here. So what I have done is to multi-track myself, playing the hand and pedal parts separately, one at a time, and layer them over the top of each other. And as a result of that, you will see more than one image of me on the screen at the same time. And in some, you'll see me sort of looking over there, trying to see the computer monitor over there. When I'm playing a part over the top of something that I've already recorded, I'm looking at the image of the waveform of the first thing I recorded on the screen, so that I can time the second layer, if you like, with that as best I can. At times there will even be a third or fourth image of me when I would have been playing on a second manual, a second keyboard. Those of you who've seen my videos at St. Peter's Church, Hammersmith, where I play regularly, that is a two-manual organ, an organ with two keyboards, as we call it. See video number 7 for a more in-depth explanation of organ terminology. And of those two keyboards, two manuals, we call the bottom one the grate, that's where the main sounds are, and the top one is called the swell, where all the pipes for that manual are contained in a giant box with shutters that can open and close with a pedal, and as a result the sound can be gradually made louder or softer by using that pedal. And we also have a pedal board down here, essentially a keyboard for the feet, which is just called the pedal. So we've got swell, grate and pedal, and I've labelled those accordingly on the screen. You'll see this in a minute, as to when I would have been playing on any one of those three departments, divisions of the organ. Some of you who've seen some of my other videos might remember that I do have a second keyboard here in the Noble Korg M50, which I've been using for various other things. And I'm not using that today for two reasons. One is that all the sounds that I want to use just happen to be on the Nord, so I've decided to use that exclusively. And the other reason is that I thought it'd be a good opportunity to demonstrate the whole multi-tracking technique, which is something I've been doing a lot during, well, both lockdowns, with the choir videos that we've put together for the virtual services for St. Peter's, Hammersmith, on the church's YouTube channel. Mainly during the spring, but also during this month of November 2020 as well. And it's also the technique that I used to record the album, the Atmosphere Suite, 10 years ago in 2010. Exactly the same idea. I'd be playing the various parts individually, one at a time, and layering them on top of each other. And in this video there are, if I've counted correctly, 37 individual video clips that you'll see that have gone towards putting this performance, the performance of this piece, together. And I'm changing sounds with certain preset buttons in the middle here. I've also got down here an expression pedal, which you can see there, which is the electronic equivalent of the swell pedal that you'd find on the organ. It tips forward and backwards like that. My foot's on there, and I've assigned that to certain parameters to change gradually certain parameters on the Nord to give the effect of opening or closing a swell box. And the reverb effect that you'll hear is applied afterwards by the computer. The computer receives dry sounds from the Nord and then adds the reverb afterwards to give the final effect of being in a large church or cathedral. It's a different experience to a live performance, I'm sure, but hopefully an interesting one. And it's definitely, for me at least, been a silver lining of the lockdown in amongst all these difficulties and challenges that we've all faced this year in 2020, to have had a bit of an opportunity to explore this technology a little bit further and what it's capable of. And there's been a great opportunity for creativity there. I hope you've enjoyed that today. My next 3 videos over the next 3 Fridays are all linked together in some way or another. Next week, which will be Friday the 27th of November 2020, I'll be playing a piano improvisation on No theme. In videos 2 and 18, I played improvisations on 5 notes. I took a 5-note theme and used that as the basis of an improvisation, one on the piano and one on the organ. And then in video 20, I improvised to my partner Riona's reading of the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. But in this video, in a week's time, I'm not going to take any theme at all. I'm just going to sit down and play and see what comes out. And this process resulted in my own Piano Sonata number 1, which I'm going to play in 2 weeks' time on Friday the 4th of December. I had a couple of motifs in my head before I sat down and played that in the first place, but the resultant piece, which you'll hear in a couple of weeks, is almost the same as the original improvisation that I recorded a couple of years ago in 2018. And that piece was inspired by listening to the piano sonatas of Beethoven. And in 3 weeks' time, Friday the 11th of December, I'll be playing Beethoven's Piano Sonata number 4 in E-flat major. I'm sure many of you will be aware that this year marks 250 years since Beethoven was born, and the month of December in particular marks that anniversary. So I thought it'd be good to play some Beethoven in the month of December, 250 years after he was born, particularly given that a lot of the events that have been planned over the world to mark this anniversary will have to have been cancelled or at least postponed because of the pandemic, which is a great shame, really, of course. So I thought it'd be nice to feature some Beethoven on the channel, and I hope you'll enjoy that in due course. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching very much, as always. Hope you enjoyed it today, and I'll see you next time.